Hey guys, it's Saturday morning. Welcome back to another. I guess we'll call them Saturday morning underground, kind of like your Saturday morning cartoons, but less entertaining, probably. So today we're gonna have in. I don't even know your last name, Milan, who's been going by for the last. This is a face reveal of Mira
Yeah, it is.
Hurley. So if you've been following Mira Hurley on Twitter for the last few years, that's been a fake profile essentially. And this is the person who's been behind that account. So I've had some long interactions with him over the last couple years. I've always appreciated like the length and detail you would have in your threads. And also, you are the creator of Nano GPT, which is in Cake Wallet. So, since Cake Wallet's our sponsor, why wouldn't we want to talk about it? So, why don't you give me a little introduction, just kind of about yourself? You want to give some of the history of why the account, or maybe where you came up with Nano GPT, how you got the cake integration, all that stuff.
All right, yeah, I'll start with the Mira Hurley history. Yeah, so essentially, I on Twitter I was Mira Hurley, a woman, for the longest time, and I did my sort of face reveal or like my post revealing that I'm actually Milan, like 6 days ago, I think, because I thought it was finally time to dox myself. And so the reason I was anonymous or had like a pseudonymous account, I guess you call it, is that I used to work at the central bank in the Netherlands. And as you can imagine, the central bank is not very fond of one of their employees being on Twitter describing how crypto is the future and central banks are gonna like disappear or central
Mm-hmm.
banks are evil, pretty much. So like there were a lot of downsides to linking the two. In the end, it turned out to be a very good choice. Like someone actually reached out to my work at some point. They had dug deep enough to find my actual name. They kind of reached out and did like a whole collection of all my posts and sort of linked them to Dutch working hours and then highlighted the ones that were most anti-central bank and whatever. So that kind of convinced me to stay anonymous a bit longer at least. And now I quit the central bank 2 years ago. Nowadays, I'm a builder in crypto. So I have sort of very little reason to still be anonymous.
So,
So
can I ask
decided,
you, did they collect those and identify them to you, or just in general, they were like, here's some tweets that we think are coming from someone inside?
no, so they somehow figured out it was me. I still don't know how because I never sort of used my real name and only very few people knew it was me. I think I signed up to some services with my Milan email and then with Mira as like the like display name or something. And I think
Got
one of those, it was a Bitcoin maximalist who reached out. I think one of those was run by someone apparently very passionate about Bitcoin and they reached out. So it was like a very long email with just a ton of timestamps on all the posts and being like, and especially these ones you might want to see and you might want to do something about it. Yeah, so that was no fun.
Do you think
Who
it
did they
was a
send it
Bitcoin
to?
maximalist? Go ahead. Sorry.
What? Sorry.
Who did they send that email to?
To the compliance department at the Dutch central bank.
Oh my god. Okay.
Yeah,
That's what
it
a
was a
weird thing for someone to do. Like what the hell?
I know. Yeah, it's just very weird. It felt very weird, like the Bitcoiners teaming up with like a central bank. Like, what is the thinking here? But yeah, it was. The central bank was surprisingly chill about it. Like they were
Mm,
just saying, okay, as long as you're not posting it as like representing the views of the Dutch central bank, it's totally okay. We get why you're anonymous. I also got a few death threats after like a sort of very anti-Bitcoin post where I like went into the flaws that it could have in the long run. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, all that convinced me like, okay, anonymity is very valuable. But yeah, nowadays, so we have NanoGPT, which is a registered company. And then in the Netherlands, your name is just in a register. So anyone could look up the company and just see my full name. Um, so yeah, I figured, okay, there's very little downside. Like anyone that wants to dig can find it anyway. And
Mm-hmm.
then there's a lot of like, at least now I get to do fun stuff like this, right? And be on like Twitter Spaces, everything. So I figured, okay, now's the time to just come out and like do my gender reveal.
Yeah. So you were definitely were you okay? Did this happen before you were on Twitter or no? It was after you had already started posting on Twitter.
Yeah, yeah. This
Okay.
was after I started posting. I think this was 2021. Yeah, probably 2021. And I
Interesting.
started the account in like 2019, I guess, or 20 maybe. Um, so yeah, yeah,
That makes
I
me
was on
definitely.
Twitter for a while.
I have this suspicion that there's a lot of. I mean, I don't. It's got to be obvious that there's some sort of deep state players inside of Bitcoin maximalism, right? Because no one would be that motivated unless you're just like a psycho,
Yeah, I
right?
don't know, man.
To have those
Like also,
resources. Yeah.
yeah, I don't get it. Also, the death threats like had my address and everything in there, and like weird details that were like, okay, maybe somehow through like Google Street View or something, but it was just very very weird stuff. So yeah,
Makes me feel like
I'm
maybe I'm not as important as I thought I was. I haven't had a single death threat. I must not be doing anything right.
You're not critical enough, man. You got to really dig down. No, yeah, I don't know. It was a very critical thread, and like probably judging by the response, my best one yet. So yeah,
Man,
I guess it's
that's
a compliment
crazy.
in a way. Yeah.
That's wild. I did want to ask you, and I kind of mentioned it beforehand, like about being a woman online. So a couple reasons for it. Do you feel like people would treat you differently, as in maybe a couple different ways? Like either they didn't give you as much credence for what you were saying, like they would be more dismissive of you. Would they try to talk down to you a little more? Um, and would they maybe, or on the opposite side, where they're more like almost what white knighting, where people were maybe treating you with, being less aggressive with you because you were a woman?
Yeah, I feel like it wasn't much of the latter, like being less aggressive. I feel like people saw it as a very easy sort of attack vector, pretty much. Like, okay, honestly, with a lot of the discussions I had with like the hardcore toxic Bitcoin maximalists, this always came up somehow. But then many other people, like most people, just don't care. I think online who you are, like you can have a picture of a dog or a girl or like whoever you really are. I think most people don't really care. But I kind of like it sounds very cliche, but it does make you appreciate a bit more why there are not more women in crypto, because it's like the most of the responses you get are not very like, oh cool, there's a woman in crypto. Most of it is like, go back to the kitchen, or
Right.
like dick pics, which is great.
No way.
Yeah, not that many, luckily. I thought there would be more, but yeah, a few. Like not the best messages to get.
Yeah, I was going to ask you,
That's
did
amazing.
you have some simps?
So there, after I did my reveal, there were a few people that were like, there goes my dream of marrying Mira.
Oh my god.
Yeah. And I think some people probably were genuinely disappointed, right? Like, there finally is a woman in crypto. It turns out like there's not. So I get why people were disappointed. But yeah,
So
no
even the
real
women that are in
simps, I think.
crypto, even the few women that are in crypto are not really women.
Yeah, so there's at least one that I know for sure is in crypto, because it's George from like the Nano Foundation, and I've seen her, so I know she's actually a woman. But then
Yeah.
she's not on Twitter, so that also doesn't really help.
Yeah, that's a rarity. There's a few
Yeah,
out there for sure, and it is a, I don't know, it's a little bit of the problem. I think is we do definitely have a combative nature in this environment, and it's a lot about like sports, right? So it's this combination of like team loyalty plus the financial aspect of things. I think if you look
yeah,
statistically, investors are, active investors are usually men.
yeah,
So it's just something about our nature that draws us to it. And
yeah,
yeah,
It's a
crypto
very
in general,
male-dominated space for sure.
it's a, I bet you we could probably even subsection off the men that are interested in it, because I would say 80% of men aren't really that interested in it, right? It's a
yeah,
particular personality type for sure. But okay, well, cool. I do want to ask you a little bit. So let's kind of dive into the Nano GPT thing.
yeah.
I'm kind of curious. So you created this, how long? Was it been about a year?
So I first set up like a Telegram bot, which was a very simplified version of all of this, about, I think a year ago. And then Huggy, who is now my co-founder, reached out to me and told me like, okay, this is a great service, great idea, but not everyone uses Telegram, like obviously. So
Right.
he was saying like we could turn this into a website and like add more features and everything and turn this into a real business. We'd never met. We still have actually never met in real life. And we decided, okay, let's try and do this together. Let's build this up. So essentially, shall I give some background on what it is in the first place, GPT?
Yeah,
Or
go ahead. Yeah.
yeah. So essentially, NanoGPT, we started NanoGPT because we kind of hate subscriptions and we kind of hate giving up our privacy to every service out there. So we started this so that people could access all of the top AI models, so like ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, also a bunch of uncensored and open source ones, so that everyone could access those on a pay per use basis instead of having a $20 subscription to like 3 different ones. So we set it up so that people could access all of those easily, also the top models. And then we're very privacy focused, so we don't store any prompts, any conversations whatsoever. Everything is only locally on your device. So even like if we got hacked or something, there would be nothing for them to see. Just because like with my history, you might understand I appreciate privacy. So essentially, it's a way that we want to allow more people access to the top models. And so we started with Nano, obviously, Nano GPT, so that people could actually deposit like literally 5 cents or 10 cents and try a few queries on ChatGPT, like the pro version, try a few queries on all the other pro models. And nowadays we have like a ton of very small users, which is kind of cool to see. And we hear from users that genuinely add like 10 cents and then like get some use out of it. So that's honestly really nice. I feel like crypto really makes a difference there.
Mhm.
And yeah, we've been growing it ever since. So nowadays we just support pretty much all of the big text models and all of the big image models. Midjourney is literally the one exception. All the other ones we have.
Has business been pretty good? Are you guys growing?
Yeah, it's honestly been really good. We added credit cards like 5 days ago, which is annoying in many ways because the fees are super high. So we still offer a discount on all the crypto deposits.
Okay.
But honestly, business has been really good. Like, yeah, there's no complaints. It's growing fast, and we have a lot of users who are super enthusiastic about it. So they spread it to like their friends and
Mhm.
family. And before we only had crypto, so those friends and family would get like a gift account or like an invite from like someone who was into crypto. But then once it ran out, they could like there was no way for them to add. So that's kind of why we added credit cards for all of those people who got started in it with crypto or like were gifted some crypto. But then just to make it easier for them to keep using it, we now also have credit cards. But yeah, business has been very good.
That's
No,
good.
it's such a good marriage of 2 different technologies, like, the use case for it is so, so good, right? Being able to keep your privacy and whatnot without having to KYC and create an account. I guess you guys must use cookies, to maintain session data
Yeah.
and,
So,
all that
oh,
stuff?
sorry. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
first we only did cookies. So if you cleared your cookies, everything was gone. And then turns out people like the privacy, but they don't like losing their balance. So we added accounts or like optional accounts. So now if you
Okay.
want to, you can create an account, but there's no need to. Like anyone can just use it without ever making an account. And then the account you can just make with any email you want. So use a spam email or whatever. We don't care. We never message or anything. It's just so that people can log in. Um, but yeah, it does feel like the marriage of two worlds. We've also recently added like an earn page because for many people, like even getting their hands on crypto is difficult. So then it's great that you can add 10 cents and use it. But like, how
Mhm.
do you get your hands on 10 cents worth of crypto? So we added an earn page where people have like an overview of all the different ways they can earn little bits of crypto. So I
Nice.
think that's kind of cool. We're trying to build like a circular ecosystem around crypto.
Yeah, it's
Interesting.
funny because the thing with AI is that probably what most people need, and myself included in that, is it's really difficult to even stay aware of what is out there. Because sometimes you're like, oh, I don't want image generation. I'm not looking for, I don't know. Some of the chat models are, to me, I don't know. They're not that great, to be honest. Like Grok, to me, I've
Yeah.
used it, and I'm like, I just don't. It's a weird implementation to search Twitter for information. Like that's such a
Yeah.
bad place to look. But like to be on kind of the cutting edge, and as these different models specialize in something, day one I might be like, I am kind of interested in like researching. Like last week we talked about the different THC compounds inside of cannabis with that Martha Bueno, which was super interesting to me, and it'd
Oh
be
yeah.
so cool to be able to dive into scientific papers, which this may not exist with AI yet, but at some point in time, someone will develop one that you can actually do like scientific research. But I'm not going to
Yeah.
do that every day of the week, so I might just want to use it for a particular subject I'm interested in. Hopefully, there's the ability to scour news sites or like government websites at some point in time. So
Yeah.
like mental burden of trying to keep track of all that stuff is really what you guys are offloading, in my opinion. Because
Yeah.
like you said, the day-to-day cost is not that much. It's just for the average user, they don't have time to even know what the heck they're looking for, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. And it is honestly super cheap. Like $1 gives on average, I think it's 56 ChatGPT queries.
Yeah.
So, and then obviously ChatGPT is one of the better models, so it's more expensive. But also there's like super cheap models where people literally do like 15 prompts for 1 cent or something. So it's really cool to see. Like we have some users. So just to be clear, we don't see any of the prompts, but sometimes users contact us to explain to us like how they're using it. And they're like, yeah, I used NVIDIA Nemotron because it's great at math. And then I used Perplexity Online to look up stuff like from a website or like get it to take in the info. And then I switched to, I think it was Claude or something to summarize it all. I'm like, dude, that's great. Like that's exactly
Yeah.
what we want you to use it for. So yeah, it is really cool. It's super nice actually to get the feedback from the users.
Yeah, I used
I
it.
mean, being able to access.
Go ahead.
Sorry, being able to access O1 is something that's like,
Yeah.
that's the most impressive model out there. And I mean, typically you would need an account with OpenAI,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And you guys just grant access. It's pretty cool the way you do it. I mean, you're kind of like just a provider, right? Like
Yeah.
you have a gateway to their API and allow people access at a fair price.
Yeah,
I
it's
mean,
also we saw a big spike in usage when O1 came out, just
mhm.
because even if you had access to their API, not everyone got access to O1. You had to be like on their top tier users. So like you had to have had like a lot of usage in the past, which obviously we have at this point. So we got access to O1 like immediately.
Yeah.
And then I think a lot of people wanted to use it for the API stuff, and we also have an API that people can use. So you saw people playing around with it on the API immediately. So that was fun. That was a good growth for us.
So you have accounts set up with everybody. You're, I'm assuming, paying on some kind of per post basis as well.
Yeah.
Now
Yeah.
you're getting a distribution kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
Do you think this has use in other areas? Because you're, when you first did this, it started getting my wheels turning of like, well, what other subscription based services could you kind of offload? And they might not just be it might not be possible with something, but I thought of like Spotify, like being
Yeah.
able to build your own jukebox essentially. Because like we have a club that I'm a part of, and I'm like,
Oh
you could
yeah,
just
I
set up
remember this.
yeah, and I was like, why couldn't I just have a pay per song request, and I get, I keep some of it, or I pay for a premium subscription and people can, use it. I don't know. And I thought there's going to be blockades when you get copyrighted material and that type of stuff with
I guess.
television.
Yeah.
But have you thought about other subscription models that maybe you could, extend this to in a way?
So first of all, I think many people have asked us actually, like, okay, do you have like newspapers, for example, right? If you want to read news articles, no
Oh
one
yeah.
wants to get like a Financial Times subscription for, I don't even know how much it costs to read 2 articles, but sometimes there's an article I want to read.
Oh yeah.
So for that kind of stuff, it could be great. Or like Substack articles. For a lot of sort of reading material, I think it could work really well. Spotify could work really well. Honestly, I think people are getting fed up with streaming services because there's just so many. So you need like your Netflix, your, I don't know, Hulu. I don't have streaming services,
Yeah.
so I don't know the names. But like there's so many now, and it all adds up. So I feel like there is an opportunity for other models here as well. And I think it would be a nice use case for many crypto, because we use Stripe nowadays for credit cards, and like it is expensive. There's a good reason we prefer crypto. There's a good reason we offer a discount. It's because we still get to keep more, pretty much.
What's it
So
cost you? What's the fee on Stripe right now?
Stripe is like
Yeah.
30 cents per transaction plus 3%. And
Oh.
then there's like a ton of additional small fees that get stacked up everywhere. So it's hurtful,
crazy.
especially for like the small transactions we usually do, right? Like we want people to be able to deposit $1, $2, or even less, ideally.
Mhm.
So we actually have this discount. Like if you go to the website, it shows 5% discount if you use Nano, and then we have this link to why we use Nano, and it explains essentially like we are kind of forced to use Stripe for credit cards, but we would prefer that you pay Nano because like fee this, fee there, settlement times, whatever. So yeah,
Right.
it would be great for crypto, I think, if there were more of these services.
Are you going to allow for zero confirmation transactions on Litecoin?
Yeah, that's the plan.
Beautiful.
Yeah, I am like I said this to you guys beforehand as well. I'm really hoping we get to launch Litecoin during this talk. So I keep alt tabbing to my co-founder who's like literally trying to implement this right now. But yeah, the plan is we want to make the implement, like we've done the same with Bitcoin Cash, and we did a lot of
Mhm.
testing with Bitcoin Cash users to make sure it's an implementation the users actually like. So we feel like every crypto we add, we need to sort of do justice to the experience, right?
Yeah.
Because otherwise we might as well use, I don't know, Now Payments or BitPay, some processor. And all of those are like slow and whatever. So we wanna be able to offer small transactions and like actually good experience.
Is it surprising to you that so many companies, well, maybe you can tell me, maybe it isn't surprising that they use places like BitPay and I guess I'm trying to think who else would be a processor. I mean, Bitrefill kind of is like this, but do you feel like it's just a matter of the dedication, getting over the hump of starting to accept them and going through I guess the trouble that can come with it and just learning through it, that
Right.
once you're
Yeah.
set up and running, it's like, why would I ever go back? Is that kind of, or do you understand why people use BitPay?
I definitely understand why people use BitPay just because so we're implementing using BTC Pay server, which sort of offers a ton of different crypto in a non-custodial way. But frankly, it's not that easy to set up. Like Stripe was plug and play pretty much. And then BTC Pay server, we've been wrestling with it for like, I don't know, a week. Uh, because you got to run your own node for every crypto. And then you got to make sure it stays synchronized. You got to make sure you do all the callbacks correctly. Every chain has like its own specific oddities that you have to deal with.
Mm.
So I can definitely see why people use BitPay just because it takes so much like it takes time and bandwidth to implement them like yourself, and BitPay just takes that away from you, right? So I can definitely understand it. There's also Now Payments and Celix. We checked out like a bunch of providers, but then all of them don't allow for very small transactions, and it takes forever to confirm. Like it will take Bitcoin Cash would take an hour. Litecoin probably similar to like Kraken and Binance, right? It takes like what is it,
Six
15?
Six
confirmations.
confirmations.
Oh, six.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So
Yeah,
what is that? Like 15 minutes or something?
yeah.
So yeah, like we don't want people to be waiting 15 minutes, right? So
Has
then we
that
go
made
slow.
you? Because like I know, obviously, I was talking to you a little bit yesterday. Just looking at your site, you've got now 8, 9 cryptos you'll have that you're accepting, or that you have
Yeah,
listed as going to accept at some point.
yeah.
Are are you going to be more, I guess, hesitant to add anything just because you start going, all right, we've got to start weighing the pros and cons. Like if you own, I don't know, Ripple, figure it out yourself. Go find another way to, because I don't have the time. Like at some point in time, I got to see the benefit as a business. I've always felt this way. Like one of the things that people don't think about enough when they think about cryptos is like, there's a limit, like you're talking about, there's a mental bandwidth limit to accepting all these, or even just a physical bandwidth, like development.
Yeah.
So people are only going to accept a handful of coins that they see as worthwhile to add. So are you guys you think you're cutting off at this point, or are there others that you would like to do at some point in time?
So there are always more that we want to add, but I think after these next ones are added, it's not going to be the highest priority to add more.
Yeah.
And then, so the way we have it now with also, for example, Litecoin, Monero, if you click the icon, there's like we're thinking or we're adding this option, sign up here if you want to be notified. So we might just do that for other crypto as well, and then sort of see which ones get a lot of requests. Or like, this is also what many other businesses that accept crypto do, right? It's like, if enough people push for it on Twitter, you start considering it, and otherwise, yeah, you don't. So what we do right now is you can swap practically any crypto onto our website, but it has like a $6 minimum.
Okay.
I think it's for almost every crypto, it's $6. I think for Litecoin, it's also $6 or $7. So that's already a good option, but it's like too high for people to want to try it out, right? Because you want to deposit $1 and try it out. So yeah, it depends, right, how it goes. But these are like the main ones that we want to add, and then we'll see how we go.
Okay, that's kind of. I almost wonder with your Nano, you could maybe just, if you can track the how are you're tracking it with cookies, right? Or you're not tracking it with cookies anymore. I'm sorry, I lost
What
track of that.
what are we tracking?
No, because when you were saying like to keep an account, I was wondering, you could take your Nano and just say, well, here's $1 to try it out, but or whatever, 20 cents, and give it away, and then let people test it. But I'm not telling you how to run your business and giving
Oh,
people
okay.
money. But
So that's what,
if you knew people couldn't abuse it, essentially,
right. So that's the difficult part, right? Because we don't want to track IPs, we don't want to track emails, whatever, and we don't even force people to make accounts. That makes it really easy to abuse any free stuff we
True,
give.
that's true, yeah.
So we've considered it a few times, and we do have invites. So essentially, I can create a link and deduct 1 nano from my balance and send it to you. So you
Okay.
just send the link to someone, and if they click it, they get like 1 nano added to their balance. So that's the easy way that many people are sharing it. But then, like, it's up to the user to decide if they think that's worth it, right? To give some to their friends or whatever. But yeah, the free model is a bit difficult for us.
Right.
That's
right,
a cool incentive program, though. Honestly, getting people in to try it out, to give them a
Yeah.
taste it's great. Yeah.
Yeah, we also give a discount. So if you got referred by someone or invited by someone, you get a 5% discount on all the prompts that you do. And the person who did the referring, they get like a 10% revenue share. So it's actually costing us a fair bit, but it's a good way to get people interested, I think.
Yeah, one of the things we did when I was at the Litecoin Summit, we met. I kind of got re-inspired to start doing these live streams again because I wanted to understand different businesses in crypto. And like, I'm interested when there's something that really, like, you can do this with credit cards, but like you said, it's just there's a lot of friction, and it's so much simpler to open this up to the world and maximize profit or offer the best pricing possible to customers through crypto. Because the other one, the reason that Stack Mobile we talked about, the ability to distribute payments without having to know people's names, and like, I think that's going to be, it's really a cool way you get that you're utilizing crypto for what it was really intended to be, right?
Yeah, I think so too. And another thing we do is that people can withdraw their Nano at any time. So if people deposit another coin, it gets swapped into Nano, right? And they can still withdraw that Nano. So like, obviously that's of less interest to people in Litecoin, because you're like, well, what am I going to do with Nano? But just to shill Cake Wallet, they have a multi-wallet integration. Litecoin is in there, but Nano is also in there. So you could always sort of take it back to your wallet and then just convert it to Litecoin at some point or whatever. That's another thing that's not really possible with credit cards. Like, we're not going to be able to send back like whatever amount you have left, right? That's like a lot more difficult to do. So yeah, we kind of like the way it gives the ultimate flexibility to people. They can deposit $1 worth of crypto and then use it a bit, withdraw 90 cents they have left if they want to. Yeah, just gives more flexibility.
What did you how'd you end up with on Cake Wallet? Did you reach out to Vic, or did he reach out to you? He seems to be the guy that's willing to experiment and throw some money
Yeah.
to try something out, right?
Yeah. Honestly, Cake Wallet, the entire team, like, obviously we like them because they have us in the wallet, but even if they didn't, they're like great. They keep adding new stuff also to their Nano wallet, and like, I'm aware Nano is one of the smaller coins, and still they really try hard. But I think I actually reached out to Vic to ask for advice on setting up a company related to crypto, because like, it's pretty complicated. And then we got to talking, and then a few days later he reached out like, hey, the Nano GPT thing seems really cool. Like, can we get this into Cake Wallet? Because he just wants Cake Wallet to be more useful, right? So people want to open the app more. So yeah, we were very happy to do that, obviously, and we're quite proud to be in there.
Yeah, that's cool. Because he hired a Nano dev,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
Yeah, I
Fossey.
remember
I don't know how to pronounce his name. Fossey. Yeah.
I just remember that was maybe a year ago or something, right
Yeah.
before they added Nano. But yeah, I'm wondering.
Yeah.
See, I'm wondering with him too if there's a burden at some point where he goes, "Okay, enough." Right? I think they've got Polygon, Ethereum, Bitcoin Cash, Litecoin, Bitcoin, Nano. What
Yeah.
else do they have on there? Like they don't have Dogecoin, which I'll be honest, I'm surprised at. I've been on his case about Doge for a while because
Mhm.
I'm like, what? It's a big enough community, but what's strange about Doge is that yeah, on Twitter it's this huge community, but
Yeah.
when it comes to like looking at actual activity and usage, it's really low. So it's where like you would if you looked at the Litecoin and Dogecoin communities, you would think the total opposite, right? You would think Dogecoin's the one that's being used on all these payment platforms and has all this popularity, and
Yeah.
Litecoin
Yeah.
the one that doesn't. And it's like the total opposite, right?
Yeah, it
So
is. Yeah. So I'll be honest, we haven't had many requests to add Dogecoin to our website. I feel like people that have Dogecoin like the memes, they like investing in it, but maybe they just don't want to spend it. They used to, like back in the day, on Reddit, they would like tip with the Dogecoin, like Doge tip, Dogebot. I don't know what it was called,
Yeah.
but that was fun, man. That was good times. But nowadays it's not used so much anymore, I guess. Whereas, so the reason we had Litecoin, right, is because first of all we got a lot of requests for it, but also BitPay. Obviously, it's like used a ton on BitPay. I think also on Bitrefill, it's
yeah,
used a lot on like
Mhm.
Trocador. I don't know how to pronounce it, but like the gift cards. I
yeah.
think like Litecoin obviously is used a lot, so it just makes sense for us to add, and that's less the case with Dogecoin, I think.
Yeah.
It's interesting because you would think that given Litecoin's price performance, that people would be more more reluctant to spend it at this point. But in fact, the opposite is true. People are, according to the data that we got from Bitrefill, right? They're using it almost. It's like almost second or third in every region,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Which is quite
It
fascinating. Yeah.
it makes sense to me. Like obviously I'm a nano guy, right? But like I get it because Litecoin, it's low fees, it's quick, and it's sort of well known and
It's
well
available
supported in
everywhere,
many
right?
places.
It's
Yeah,
everywhere.
exactly. It's easy to buy. Like that's one of the downsides that we have with Nano. Like it's not on Coinbase, it's not on Gemini. It is on Binance, Kraken, whatever, but it's slightly harder to get than Litecoin. So yeah, I get why Litecoin sees a lot of usage.
Why do you think that is? Why do you think Coinbase refuses to add Nano?
Oh man, so if you ask the Nano community about this, there's like a ton of conspiracy theories about it.
Mhm.
Um, so at one point, one of the very active Nano people, Patrick Luberus, I think he's
Yeah,
called. Yeah, he's
I
also
know
on
the
Twitter.
name. Yeah.
He actually got a DM from Brian Armstrong at one point if he wanted to come interview at Coinbase. And then Patrick brought up Nano, and the guys were like giggling, and like he felt there was more going on there as well. So, and then like there
Like they
have
were
been,
trolling him in a way or something?
I don't know, but like when he brought it up, we're like, Nano. Like there is
Oh,
something weird
like they're
going
aware of
on
it.
there,
They're
I
just
think.
there's a
They're
reason they're not.
very aware of Nano. Yeah, they're definitely aware of Nano. Um, I don't know what it is. I tried to, so I went to the Network State conference. I don't know if you guys know what it is, but like Brian
Mhm.
Armstrong was supposed to be speaking there. I'm like, I'm just gonna go up to him and ask him like, "What's up, man?" But he ended up doing his talk remote, so cannot give you a conclusive answer.
It,
Nowadays, it's oh sorry.
I was gonna say it's a little bit like the Lightning thing. Like what Lightning enables is to be a bank, right? So what you see
Yeah,
Michael Saylor and this Lightspark and Jack Mallers and Jack Dorsey and Coinbase and Binance and Kraken, they're all adding Lightning because they get to be the bank
yeah,
and they
yeah.
get fees. And so if you're something that comes in and completely undermines that, it's like, well, why would you do it, right? I can't, it's like you offering a free, hey, you can use our Nano GPT or you can just use it for free, right next.
Yeah.
You wouldn't do that, right? Nobody would do that.
Yeah, I think that's an argument. On the other hand, I think like trading fees, withdrawal fees, like that's where they make most of their money, right? They're not
Yeah.
gonna, maybe their long-term vision is like we are the bank and we will make our money from being the bank and doing the Lightning transactions, taking a fee on it. Maybe that is their long-term view. I hope not. Like I would prefer if we try to remain sort of self-custodial.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. Like I would obviously love to see it on there. But yeah, no luck so far.
Animal, did you have a question? I thought I always
No, I
step
mean
off
it's just
that
so long
chance.
as long as they're in like I guess they've got to cater to Bitcoin's structure, right? As long as Bitcoin remains um too expensive to transact on chain, they've got to accommodate that. So, I want to say like Coinbase, I don't know if they really have a huge stake in whether or not, they use Lightning or not. They want to serve their clients. And as long
Yeah.
as Bitcoin remains, their block space remains constricted, they've got no other choice. So yeah, I mean, I feel like Michael Saylor came out this week and notoriously was saying how, he was saying all this stuff about how
Yeah.
Bitcoin is not meant to be transacted with on chain, that you're going to have to use a custodial service, and that's just the way it is, and that get used to it, basically. Tough
Yeah.
luck if you want like financial sovereignty. You can't get it anymore on Bitcoin. So yeah, I think it's maybe he's got a vested interest in keeping it that way, in like the whole ossification movement. But I don't know if Kraken or Coinbase are that committed.
Yeah, I just find that really sad. Like I got into Bitcoin around 2012, 13, and I for the longest time was convinced it was going to be the cash of the future. And I still would like to. So some of our users are literally guys from Nigeria, from Kenya, who use our service for like 5 cents worth or 10 cents worth. And they're like very happy because they can finally ask for, I don't know, help on their homework, medical advice in some cases. Like, not sure I would recommend that, but like I find it very cool that people can do that from any country. And it makes me kind of sad that Bitcoin, which is the best chance we've had at that, like is just unwilling to, or the Bitcoin community is unwilling to sort of make the changes necessary to get to that point, because it is still our best chance. Like, I'm into Nano. I would still love for Bitcoin to improve and to become better. Like, it would make my life a lot easier if Bitcoin was just working and working well.
It's almost like, yeah, the fact that it's so decentralized and so much of a democracy, I guess, democratic process, it's holding it back, right? Like we have things with like Litecoin is a perfect example. We have Charlie Lee, who kind of, he's the creator and he's able to express his vision, and thankfully, he's a man of integrity, so people, the community, can rally behind him when he has an idea. Typically, it's really he's got the best interest of the Litecoin community at heart. So yeah, and he's able to do things like MWeb, right?
I would say even more so than that. The Litecoin community, yes, but I think he ultimately believes adoption is the key, right? And
yeah,
he may say, I don't know, he generally doesn't say anything unpopular because everybody likes what he says. So by default, what he says in the Litecoin community is popular, but he may go against the grain. And I think he's been more quiet than I would like him to have been over the last couple of years. But
I mean, yeah, it's been a pretty spicy political landscape. And I mean, the thing that's with Charlie is that he's like a true Bitcoiner, right? Like he's an OG Bitcoiner with the ethos of decentralization and peer-to-peer money and stuff. So yeah, when he has suggestions like, Mimblewimble, fungibility, he understood that was the direction that, cryptocurrencies need to go in, to be actually used and useful and safe for people to use. And same thing with SegWit, right? Like he knew that in order to scale, Bitcoin needed something, but the Bitcoin community was unable to experiment. They were just, it's understandable when you have a market cap, a currency with a market cap that Bitcoin has. You don't want to risk people's money, right? And that's, it's kind of the same problem we're having now with Litecoin. It's in Dogecoin, right? Like you got these billion-dollar market caps. If you start experimenting on them, and something, God forbid, something breaks, you just bankrupted a whole bunch of your whole community, right?
Yeah, true. On the other hand, I wonder whether, for example, increasing the block size in Bitcoin, like I'm not sure that's the best solution, but like, how is that going to break stuff, right? Like, it's sure 14 years ago it made sense to have small blocks of 1 MB because we had shitty computers and shitty phones. But like, are we really in 16 years, 15 years from then? Are we really saying there's no more storage available or something, or storage hasn't gotten cheaper?
It's a discussion we're not even allowed to have. Like we can't even discuss, even though the fact is, like you're saying, like probably there's a sweet spot, maybe 8 megs, maybe 16 or something, where there's a point of diminishing return. but that at the same time you're able to service the whole planet, right?
Yeah,
Or at least
yeah.
more of it. Yeah.
Because it's very nice to say like decentralization, digital gold. We have to make sure everyone can run a node. Like people can run a node and then not transact on it because they don't have the money to do a transaction. Like, great. Like, what did you actually solve now?
Exactly. More people are forced into these custodians.
Yeah.
Next week we have Eric Voskuil coming in. I don't know if you know who Eric Voskuil is. He's an old school Bitcoiner, and he
Okay,
was
cool.
talking about some software. He runs LibBitcoin, which is like again, I don't understand this stuff. I feel like I should know it better, but it's a different implementation of Bitcoin, or a different wallet. You're still running on Bitcoin, but it's just like a different software on top of it.
Okay.
And he was like syncing a node in like 6 hours or something on like a Raspberry Pi type computer. And he's like, and everybody's going, how did you do this? He's like, well, I wrote better software, right? Like Bitcoin Core has been hamstrung. And that's the other part of this. You go, well, are there things going on that we don't understand quite yet that have really caused problems? And I'm to your point, let's say you double the block size just in the interim. Maybe we can always go back if we do figure out something else. Or you say, you know what? That's not Bitcoin's thing. Go use one of these other ones that's like, or even Dogecoin. That's a Bitcoin copy. It's going to give you, understand you're sacrificing the scarcity if you use Dogecoin, but it is easier, and it can be trusted rather than just like everything else is a shit coin, right?
Yeah.
Because that's obviously not the case. And probably like with Coinbase, what makes Coinbase's job difficult is they have people beating down their door, paying them for listings. Probably, I don't know for 100%. I know Binance that way, but so how do you filter out what's worthwhile and what's not? It's almost an impossible task. We have 20,000 cryptos.
Yeah.
So the fact that we have yet to have like a benevolent leadership of sorts to say, here's let's categorize these things and talk about the ones that have a history and that are reliable and we trust. This feels like it's just nobody's taking that lead.
No,
maybe me. Well, maybe I am. I'm the one talking to you about Nano from the communities. Yeah,
it is true. There's very few people. So there's Vini Barbosa. I hope I'm pronouncing his name correctly. Who I think he's genuinely just trying to use all the coins like as needed. He used to be mostly Nano, which I think he still is. But at the same time, like he uses Litecoin, he uses Dash, he uses whatever it takes to try and be self-sovereign and use crypto. And then Joel from Dash, he's the same. He's like, I'm not a maxi. I don't care. I just use what I can. And I feel like that's already a pretty big step, but not that many people actually care about using crypto that way. I think like many people just invest and hope the price goes up, and they don't really care about whatever else happens as long as they can call everything else a shitcoin, show a price chart maybe, and then it's like, cool, discussion done.
Yeah. I mean, and Joel's doing the right thing, like leading by demonstrating. And there's one service he uses, that Spritz Finance. I personally, I should be more of a leader in that arena of like learning to start to pay your bills. I think that Stack Mobile, when that becomes available, is going to be cool to be able to get a rebate in crypto by getting your phone service, something you're already using every single day, getting a discount for using crypto. Okay, I can pay my bill with crypto. So those types of things I think are, I don't know, maybe they're coming around. If anything, stale price action should help develop these tools. It's the pumponomics is what stalls everything, because everyone's like, oh shit, I'm not doing anything. I'm just going to wait and sell,
Yeah. And I think the other part of it is also you want it to be easier to use crypto, or like better in some way, at least, than the traditional system. Because now every time I try to pay with crypto for something, I'm like, okay, but like I'm doing the price conversion. This does not make sense. Like I am paying extra for this here, or I'm like, I have to pay fees on chain. I have to pay whatever. And it just genuinely does not make sense to use crypto in those cases, except to be like, I used crypto. Which I think is fair. Like if you want to opt out of the banking system completely, then you should still do it this way, right? But just reality is, I have my bank account, and often it is annoyingly just a better way to pay. So I would love it if more websites. That's why we give the 5% discount as well, because it's like that way you can actually sort of provide an incentive for people to look into this and to go like, okay, up to you. Use the credit card or get a 5% discount. Pick your poison.
Yeah, bear markets are great for building for sure. And I mean, things like BTC Pay Server I think, will have a critical role in adoption in the future. And I feel like just making that barrier to entry lower for merchants to accept cryptos easily in a self-sovereign way, I think, it really is important. Yeah, and hopefully we'll see more. Hopefully, in the next year or so, we'll have, I guess, more lenient crypto regulations, more of a forgiving banking environment, and we'll see this happen more and more. Yeah, I mean, because BTC Pay Server does work well, but it's not super
Yeah.
easy. We're saying your co-founder or partner on NanoGPT was kind of struggling with it, and I agree. Like I played with it myself, and it'll work great. And then you add another couple coins to it, and suddenly it's like, okay, there you start having 502 errors and stuff. You're like, all right,
Yeah.
what's going on? Let's restart the containers. But yeah, I mean, it's as time goes on, as people, because they're still like, the BTC Pay Server team, they're still forging ahead. They're making it easier. I think they had a BTC Pay Server day. I'm not sure what that event was called, but yeah, they were talking about a BTC Pay Server app, which would make onboarding merchants quite an easy affair with like an invitation link, right?
Yeah, I quite like them because they are they like Bitcoin most. They are sort of self-described Bitcoin enthusiasts, but they're very open to other people adding their implementation. And they have like a V2 coming out pretty soon, I think sometime this month or next month, where we are actually going to add Nano in there just to make it easier for people to accept that easily as well. Because there are very good Nano implementations, but it's pure Nano. And like what we also know as a merchant is you want to be able to accept as many as possible, as easily as possible, and then just let the people decide, So I think it's important to have those kinds of services that just make it easier, make it, make you not have to think about like how to actually do this. Just like click and go, add more coins. Yeah, I'm
guess
very
you guys will
grateful.
you'll have like a plugin or something to add. Is that how you guys are doing it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. That's the plan.
I mean, yeah, that's fantastic because I mean, anyone that's running a BTC Pay Server can just easily, like with one click, boom, add Nano.
Yeah, that's the plan because we think, so obviously I'm enthusiastic about Nano again, but like we think the thing it's really lacking is more places to spend it and more places to earn it from. Like it works really well. Like anyone I show Nano GPT to or a Nano transaction, they're like, oh wow, this is the way it's supposed to work, right? But then that only works if there are places where you can actually spend it. Otherwise, it's like this fun toy where it's like, cool, I got some. Like now, what do I do? So yeah, that's honestly what we often did, right? We did these giveaways where we sent like 0.05 Nano, which is like 5 cents, to tons of people. And it's a nice way to demonstrate the tech, I think, because it's cool. Like you can just do it and like 0 fees paid. But yeah, then the people get it and they're like, oh yeah, cool. Like I'll keep it in my wallet, I guess. So that's kind of what we also kind of hope to solve with NanoGPT. Like 5 cents, you can actually get some use out of it. We try and do our part.
Right on.
Yeah, I mean, giving away crypto doesn't do anything to me, in my opinion. It's a short term, like, okay, cool, but like, and if you can't explain to people, if they don't understand why they're getting it or what's the value in it or what can I do with it at the very minimum, then it loses a lot of weight. I mean, I think even if they can go buy a gift card with it, they're still going to be like, well, I can buy gift cards with cash, so I don't. Why would I bother doing this, right? So you're, and that's what I think some of these businesses that are starting to find ways to use crypto in a way that isn't just of replicating the existing system. And one of the things we mentioned to the guy I keep bringing up Stack Mobile, but I was like, well, it's kind of cool. It's like they could, if you're giving rebates out, they could just give you an address of somebody in another country, like their relative, and maybe their company's paying for their phone service and they get a rebate and they can just send it on to a relative. He was like, oh, I didn't even think about that. I'm like, yeah, that's like the whole point, right? That there's this, you don't know where the money's going and it's none of your freaking business anyway. And they don't have to set up a bank account. They don't have to have, revealing information. That money can just go to who it's intended to go to with zero intermediaries. Right.
Yeah.
So so I want to shift gears here because I think this is where I got introduced to you probably most, is because I'm definitely a maximalist hater for like, and there's a lot of reasons I probably went through with just the functioning of the blockchain itself, right? The cost of mining, the cost of transactions, and all this conversation would be around. I felt like maximalists hand wave away a lot of genuine concerns about the future of Bitcoin, which, like we were talking earlier, is the future of Litecoin to a degree, right? We're very similar in our structure. One of the big differences is that there are a couple. Well, Dogecoin's a pretty major coin that's merge mined with Litecoin, so that gives ongoing block rewards, which is nice. But there's still kind of some structural things about this proof of work that you have to do. You have to be concerned about feeding the miners long term.
Yeah.
You don't think about users, and value isn't derived from using the coin. Eventually, the block rewards dry up, and you're subject to security issues. So that's how you would write these long threads about it. So
Yeah,
I don't know
if
I can ask you to summarize them, or if that's putting you on the spot of like, what's generally your thesis, or maybe when you said you started out in Bitcoin, at what point did you go, this isn't going to work?
Yeah. Do you have like 2.5 hours maybe? No, I'm just kidding. No, so I was
it's nano, dude.
No,
If it's
so
nano, let's see, nano's instant, 10 minutes. So it's about 1,000 to 1 faster. I expect you to do it 1,000 times faster.
all right, I'll try. Okay, so the biggest issues I see with Bitcoin, and this is not entirely one-to-one related to Litecoin as well, just to an extent, I guess. I see two big issues. The first is, as you mentioned, the security budget discussion, I guess it's called. So miner rewards go down every 4 years, right, with the halving. Halving. My English is not always
Halving,
perfect.
yeah.
And at the same time, we don't see fees really keeping up with that. So what we see is that miner revenue as a percentage of the total market cap keeps going down. So it used to be like 20% for Bitcoin, then it was 10%, 5%. I think right now we're at literally 1%. So the sort of incentive to secure the chain compared to how much is at stake keeps decreasing over time, which I think is a big risk because it might still be difficult in absolute terms to attack Bitcoin, but also the payoff is getting a lot bigger if you manage to successfully attack it. And then every halving, it just keeps getting smaller and smaller, this incentive. So this kind of makes me think that we might need to do a tail emission on Bitcoin sometime, which I think is just this complete, like a bomb going off, right? Like most Bitcoiners would 100% disagree.
Heresy.
What? Sorry?
Heresy detected.
You mentioned,
It's
I don't know if
heresy.
you mentioned this on the live stream, yeah, or before. You
Yeah.
got threats. That's probably why you got death threat.
Oh, yeah. So that's the one issue I see, just the security budget, and I have a thread about it. I think if you search for Milan security budget, you probably find it.
What is your handle now? Because you used to be
It's
Milan Hurley.
yeah. It's Milan, so MILAN _ de Rede, which is Dutch. So it's like DEREEDE. Maybe I should just change my name here to
Put it in the comments. Or yeah, you could add it maybe instead of Nano GPT. You could probably post it in the comments. I think it'll go up.
Oh, perfect. Okay.
I'll post, when I post this eventually, I'll put it in there.
Yeah, cool. And so the other issue, because I think Litecoin has this issue to a lesser extent, right? Because the merge mining and Doge will keep being inflated. The other issue that I see is that the mining that Bitcoin uses, so the ASIC mining, is extremely specialized, and it's a big business, right? They have a revenue side that's relatively fixed because it's hard to influence the price of Bitcoin. Like it's just a certain price. You mine a block, you get like X reward Bitcoin. So what they can influence is the cost side. That's like the full optimization for every miner is keep costs as low as possible. And way back in the day, you would have like small miners and then like medium-sized miners. And nowadays, it's like you need to be a big miner to be able to be profitable because it gives you cheaper access to capital. Like you can borrow money more cheaply. You get discounts on bulk buying of ASICs. You can do like good deals on your electricity prices. You have cheaper rack space. You have essentially cheaper everything due to economies of scale. And then if you combine economies of scale with a reward being paid every single time, what you get is the big miners keep getting bigger because they have more profit, they can reinvest more and more and more. And I think that's kind of what we've been seeing already the past years. Like miners also don't actually sort of try to hide this that much themselves. They will do mergers and then go like, yeah, it's purely for economies of scale, which makes total sense, right? Because that's the game. You want these economies of scale, which I think is fine. Like that's a good business to have, but then that's not what you want if what you want to have is a decentralized network. If there are only 3 4 entities that can together censor the chain, and I'm not just talking mining pools, like actual individual miners, that feels very risky to me. Like that's a very easy to bribe or coerce or whatever you want to do. That gets way easier to attack than if it's spread between 100 people. So I think that centralization over time is Bitcoin's biggest issue by far.
Yeah, I looked up just before we got on here. About 20% of hash rate today is publicly owned companies, corporations inside the United States. I don't even know other countries at all. Just looking at the ones that are traded in the U.S. So, like, what do you think though? Like, what does an attack look like to you? Because my concern has always been that if you don't have censorship resistance, like if the miners start censoring transactions, then you lose the value, right? Or
Yeah.
they can just kind of independently. I've said this to you, Animal. Miners are incentivized to survive, and so they're going to be forced to do something like a tail emission, despite what the community says. And they do have the ability to do that. If they, I think it's 75% of them, they could go do it. Now, if people go follow that chain, I don't know. I would think they would because they've been programmed to believe that hash rate equals security, which I don't believe that's true, by the way. The number going up in hash rate does not increase the security of the chain. I'll say that flat out because I've done a lot of thinking about this.
That's interesting. Yeah. I haven't heard that from you yet, but okay.
Oh, I did a long thread about it. Well, the reason being is the ASICs, right? So ASICs are like a key that unlocks mining. That you can the only people that can realistically compete in mining are the people that own ASIC machines. So really ownership of ASICs is what allows you to secure it. What the hash rate is, the machine from 2017, if it was one of 1,000 ASICs that existed back then, that was 1/1000th of the security budget. Where if today it's still one of 1,000, and just because the machine's gotten more efficient doesn't mean it's a higher or lower percentage of the overall security. So it's really getting access to the ASICs themselves because everybody else is they're a non-player in the field, right?
Yeah.
So it's about those hash rates keep going up, but it's only because the efficiencies of the miners have gone up. If you actually look, because I did a long thread about
It's like the wattage remains the same, right? Like the actual power draw.
And if anything,
Right.
like he's saying, the cost of power for miners has generally gone down. So if you look at the amount of money being invested in security today as a percentage of the market cap, besides just the block rewards being the amount of actual deployment of capital to acquire hash rate as a percentage of the overall pool is probably lower today than it was in 2014, honestly. Because I charted out, I literally nerded out because I was so frustrated by this question. And I was like, I'm going to figure it out myself. So I went through and looked at what was the top model or the most popular model in each year. What was its hash rate? What was its efficiency rate? And yeah, security as overall has actually gone down. If you view security in spend versus market cap, I guess that'd be the best way to put it.
Yeah.
And that'll happen. And what I realized, I did some analysis on it. I should pull this up, but was that when your reward is high, you're actually less secure than when your reward is low. Like if there's almost no profit being made, that's actually when you've reached that equilibrium of it's almost voluntary, right? That's how. So you're getting a higher spend per market cap. So even though Litecoin has very profitable miners, that means that its cost to attack is lower. All right.
The
I'll
last
share
part
that
I
thread
didn't get,
again.
but the last part I didn't get, but in general, yeah, I totally agree. This sort of the thread I did was rephrasing, I think, what you said, which I didn't look at the sort of best miners in 2014 and now, but just very simply at miner revenue, right? That's like the clearest proxy we have is miner revenue, because we can be fairly sure that in sort of on average, on aggregate, they're not going to be spending more on costs than they're getting in terms of revenue, because that just doesn't work in the long run. So if you purely use miner revenue, you see exactly what you were saying, like the revenue as a percentage of the market cap is going down, has kept going down every year, every halving pretty much. And it's actually not like Satoshi didn't foresee this. It's just that he thought fee income would make up for it, which he's posted about, like he posted about way back then. And it just hasn't, because yes, there are very high fee transactions, but even when there was like the ordinal spike and the rune spike and the whatever trading cards you want to call it spike, it still was not enough to replace the block rewards that were decreasing. So yeah, I just don't see how it works in the long run. That's my issue.
Well, ironically, I mean, we've talked a little bit about Bitcoin Cash. I mean, they took the philosophy probably of Satoshi, and I'm not going to say Satoshi's vision, whatever. I don't want to get into that whole thing, but you know, their thought is grow the user base, which is what I do believe Litecoin has to do the same thing. And ideally, you can collect enough fees in aggregate to fund it. And if anything, if the price comes down, that might make it more possible. So that's the weird irony of this, is because we've just mentioned Litecoin has not grown in price, but it's growing users. That number is probably actually growing a little bit, even though block rewards is the biggest part right now. But with Doge, with Litecoin, I would bet, I haven't even looked at it, I would bet that the security budget's actually gotten a little better on Litecoin because the lack of price action has been beneficial in a way.
I'm trying to think, like, correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm not very up to date on exactly how Litecoin works, but it's 4 times as many coins as Bitcoin, right? So the block reward now must be like, the block reward is the same. It's just every 2.5 minutes. Okay.
Instead of 10.
So, and how many transactions per day are there roughly on the network?
A couple 100,000.
Okay. So let's say like 500,000, right? Like 500,000 each. And then they cost like 1 cent each, I guess, the transactions.
Yeah, it's like 200,000 is what it is.
Okay.
And it's about a penny. That'd probably be the best.
Penny.
Estimate.
Okay, so there's like
but
10.
I want you to keep in mind, Litecoin's up 10x in transactions in the last 5 years or so. So like nice. It is growing, and I do think it's we got a long way to go, but at least we're headed in the right direction, right?
Yeah. I'm just like, it's quite a lot of transactions. Nano does fewer, so I'm not trying to diss.
Yeah.
Litecoin.
Reality. Right? I think the magic with Litecoin's security budget is that even if Litecoin tanks, okay, even if it goes to like $20 US or whatever, the hash rate will remain simply because of Dogecoin and Bell's coin now. What we're seeing is that Dogecoin is securing Litecoin security budget. The fact that Dogecoin is still at 13 cents US, that's more than enough for the miners to continue mining, right? I think we were talking to Nathan Poole a couple weeks ago, and he was saying how Dogecoin is probably 45% of his revenue, Litecoin I think 40%, and then the rest is Bell's coin and some other coins that they mine. But yeah, having Dogecoin merge mined allows Litecoin to stumble, and maybe for its price action not to be bullish all the time, without worrying about having, I guess, attacks, 51% attacks, for example.
Yeah,
the chain is secure.
What do you think an attack looks like, Milan?
So if I were to describe the Bitcoin attack, so the way I think it would play out is the money to be made in such a scenario is from the price decrease, right? Because if you successfully attack Bitcoin, if you can like mine empty blocks constantly, censor everyone, I think you can assume the price is going to drop, because sort of its price is built on it being this decentralized, open to anyone thing. So if you can mine empty blocks, you have 51% hash rate, then the price will probably tank. you can profit from a decreasing price with shorts, with just all kinds of financial instruments that are possible with Bitcoin nowadays with the ETF. It's like a ton of ways you can profit from a decline in price now. So let's say you can go short on maybe 10% of Bitcoin's market cap. I don't actually know what Bitcoin's market cap is now. I don't look at market cap much more like nowadays.
5 trillion or something.
Okay, so 1.5 trillion. Let's say you can go short on even 10% of that. That's like 150 billion in exposure. If you can get the price to tank by say 50% from like successfully attacking it, that's a potential 75 billion profit. I realize it would also take a lot of investment to do this, obviously, but like it might at some point be attractive for a big group. Then the question is, does it cost more than 75 billion to attack the chain, or can you do this in a profitable way? And I think right now it might already cost less than 75 billion to convince or like to buy out a group of miners, or to somehow coerce, bribe like a majority of the hash rate. I don't think mining pools would do it, just because people can switch mining pools, and they will if there's a 51% attack. But like there isn't that much invested in the hash rate that like 75 billion is not enough. And this is now, and it's only getting worse over time. Like every time the block reward halves, it's getting worse again. So, and the financialization of Bitcoin at the same time is only getting bigger. So going short is getting easier. Attacking is getting relatively cheaper. So I feel like that is the big like risk vector for Bitcoin in the long run.
Yeah, I agree. That's kind of my thesis as to why I'm into Litecoin and Doge as well. Just because I don't feel secure in that the hashing power of Bitcoin is safe there. I don't know. The fact that Bitcoin Cash exists and it provides an outlet for Bitcoin miners if ever there's a problem with Bitcoin, whether transaction fees are too high, or one of the easiest examples I think that you can attack. One of the easiest ways you can attack Bitcoin is by pumping up the price of Bitcoin Cash. If suddenly it's like 100 times more profitable for miners to mine Bitcoin Cash than it is to mine Bitcoin, say Bitcoin Cash, it's like $2,000 or something. Bitcoin's price stays the same. All these mining firms now, they're beholden to their shareholders, right? And their incentives are next quarter's profit, not so much the ethos of Satoshi and the decentralization. They're in it for the profit. Exactly. So are they loyal to Bitcoin's to Bitcoin's ethos? I don't think so. I think they're loyal to the dollar still. So that's a huge risk, and it's a risk that's increasing over time. As long as Bitcoin Cash exists, I think it poses an existential threat to Bitcoin. Which is why, in my opinion, the maxis are so toxic. They've got to defend their chain tooth and nail, and they've got to kill Bitcoin Cash. That's their mission. If they want to survive in the long run, I think they've got to destroy Bitcoin Cash, and they're probably finding that it's harder to destroy than they thought or hoped for.
Yeah, and I just wanted to add like the other part of this that makes it easier to attack, right? The one part is, of course, the sort of cost to attack and how much it would make. But the centralization also plays into it, right? Like the fewer entities you need to somehow like bribe or buy out or convince, the easier this also gets. So that's the sort of second vector that's helping at the same time. And that's also like, frankly, I don't know enough about Litecoin to say this, but I don't see how that part would be that different for Litecoin, right? Because it also has ASIC mining. So I guess the same economies of scale apply. It's probably not exactly the same ASIC mining, so I don't know the specifics. But I would guess that part is roughly the same, right? Ever fewer, bigger miners.
Yeah, I mean, there's not much more. Like you still need a data center, right, to run these ASICs. You still need the infrastructure, access to cheap power, and of course, once you start down that road, it's just more people want to join you, so it's easy for you to get investors to expand that one location, right, and to further centralize. That's an issue, and I mean, I don't know what the solution to that was. Making like quiet home miners.
Well, hash rate dropping is actually where we probably should feel like, I mean, crazy as it is, where you almost want it to end up, right? You want it to end up just a lot of hobbyists, I guess you would call it. The minute you go public and you've become part of the fiat system, like you're getting special treatment through selling stock, your access to capital, you're getting, like he said, access to special deals with government via electricity, you really become proof of no work. So what's happened is the people who are truly not, again, they're not deploying any real capital, they're not risking anything, they're not they're not investing anything, they're borrowing fabricated money out of thin air to secure with proof of work. There's no work being done.
No.
You know what I mean? And that's what's so crazy about it. You still got to pay those fees in Bitcoin, and that's probably the saving grace, right? Like, if if we had a Bitcoin based economy, or if like ASICs were only available for sale in Bitcoin, that would be where you would want to end up. Then you would say, okay, there's now we have that circular economy going on. But as long as they're still selling them for the dollar, I mean, like, as long as people are still selling Bitcoin for the dollar and they're still selling, we're still in a dollarized world. And eventually we've got to remove ourselves from it, not further entrench ourselves into it. So
yeah, I think that's kind of the issue. Like, the incentives just are not aligned between those who hold Bitcoin and those who mine Bitcoin. Those who hold Bitcoin don't want people to sell, and they want it to like remain secure. All that miners care about is like, give me my fiat for the fiat I'm paying for my electricity and everything. It's like a very bad alignment of motives, I feel like.
Yeah.
What's interesting now is that we're seeing some miners branch into the GPU hosting, the ChatGPT data center, I guess, realm. Given that they have the infrastructure already in place, I think it's an interesting marriage as well. Given that people will be using GPT clients more throughout the day, I guess, more throughout their time zones, day cycle, and probably at that point, they'll be doing less Bitcoin mining, but rather than letting, I guess, that data center power usage go to waste at night when less people are using GPT models, they can ramp up their ASICs, and so it kind of creates this, I don't know, this little ecology, right, where they're always running, they're always using the power, no power is being wasted or trapped, and you're securing the network and at the same time providing a valuable service with like OpenAI, or GPT
Yeah.
stuff. Yeah.
So I don't know what the latest math on this is, but the last time I tried to look into this, which might already be like a year ago, it was actually really difficult to make mining profitable without running 24/7. Like, even if you assumed that the 12 hours or whatever that you would run them, you had like a lower electricity price, it still didn't really work out because the ASIC, what do you call it, like writing it off over time, or like
the upfront
it's
capital
sort of
cost. Yeah.
right. Yeah, it's only sort of working efficiently enough for 2 to 3 years, and it is a
Right.
pretty big investment per ASIC. So it was really hard to make it work without just running them 24/7. You would need like literally a negative energy price for like a big portion of the day to make it sort of work. I would have to run it again. I think I posted about it back then, but I don't know how up to date it still is. So I
So
wonder
which
how they
company
would make
was
it.
doing that? I know there was it Riot or Marathon that they were saying they were hosting GPUs, or I don't know if it was OpenAI
I
or some
I
company.
can definitely see it making sense for them to host GPUs, right? Because it's just adding to their skill even more. It's like, okay, we can make an even bigger deal for rack space and for electricity and whatever. But I don't know if it would make sense to sort of switch around the electricity
Right.
usage. But maybe it is nowadays. I haven't looked into this one.
And I know Andres Antonopoulos, I saw him talk about attacking Bitcoin at some point in time. And, his mindset, and I tend to agree with him, is that people would move, right? They would go, well, we'll just change the algorithm. If we feel like too much mining has been under one umbrella, we'll basically hard fork, or you call it a soft fork, whatever. All the Bitcoin users will just migrate to another chain.
How do you decide?
Well, and this is what it, to me is.
Monero's done this, right?
You said something, Animal, that was interesting. You said when when it's whatever, when usage is down or whatever, you go provide some other valuable service. And I think that's the thing that we have to, as collectively as crypto people, is we have to make sure this is a valuable service to people. It can't just be purely buy and hold. That if it doesn't bring utility, if I can't do things with it like Nano GPT, or pay my bills and get a discount, or send money overseas and save money for my family, if that's not valuable to people, then we're just kind of like extracting energy out of the ground to
pay miners.
To pay miners, and like we're just pretending. And like we have to get to that point where the rubber meets the road and this thing does something beyond speculate. And I think businesses using crypto and finding use cases for it that they can't do otherwise, or that they can do, but it's just way less friction by using crypto. That's where eventually we're going to have to build that stuff. You can't sell a future if there's not even trace evidence of it in the, today.
Yeah.
We can't just keep going, oh yeah, in 10 years, because we've
Lightning is going to work.
Well, because we got to the point where it's like nation state of like we're just begging everybody now to keep speculating on it, because we can't actually prove out, well, hey, this is useful. So anytime we get a useful case, you got to highlight it, because I'm hoping somebody watches this or somebody like this and goes, oh, I could do that with my business, or maybe they just spark an idea and go, well, why am I not paying my employees in crypto? I'm dealing with all these payment processors. I have employees all over the world. Maybe it'd be simpler just to pay them in a crypto and they can go do what they want with it. Why is that not happening today? Like, it's mind blowing, right? I mean, Fiverr is out there. You're hiring people all over the world and you're paying with a credit card. Why am I not contacting those people directly and just paying them in crypto? And so building those systems to let people interact and connect, that's, communication, decentralized communication. That's the hard part. And we're going to get there, I think, eventually. I think with your Chat GPT or Nano GPT, it'd be cool to have an identity, right? That I can have an account that you talk about. I don't want to have an IP address or whatever. I mean, I know there's some crypto identity stuff out there that's coming around. It's just like, man, if we would stop talking about, arguing about what number is going to go up and actually think about how to use this stuff, collective brain power on something productive, and we'll get there. And I think it comes when price settles down enough that people can actually focus on providing real value, or using these as tools instead of just speculative instruments. So,
and I just want to say, if anyone is listening and wants to integrate like crypto payments, or look into integrating crypto payments at least, like, feel free to reach out to me. We have every incentive to have like a circular ecosystem around crypto, right? Because the more places people can spend crypto, the better it is for us as well. The more people that hold crypto, the better it is for us. We're not maximalists. Like, we're happy if people have other coins, like, as long as you have something that you can use and want to use, that's great for us as well. So if anyone wants to get tips on it, feel free to reach out. We will gladly help out.
All right, cool. Do you got any questions on that? Or I don't know how much time you have, Milan. I didn't clear this with you beforehand, but
I have plenty of time, and I just got a message from Huggy that you can even deposit LTC now. So I think he got it working.
All right.
But if we try it out, I would suggest doing it. I would recommend doing it with a small amount, because I think this is the most untested we've ever done with a coin.
This is gutsy.
It's very gutsy. I think we do a 10-cent minimum. So I think you can do like 0.0015 LTC or something.
Oh, look at this. It's asking for it. So what's my minimum? 10 cents. How about I put $1 in there?
Dude, I'll make sure. I would prefer if you did smaller.
How about 68 cents? Is that okay?
That works.
All right.
How do I?
Oh, okay. All right. Hold on. Oh, you don't have to give it to me. I'm going to use Cake Wallet because that's what we do.
I know. I'm trying to scan my screen with Cake Wallet as well.
Ooh, I wonder if I can use MWeb. I'd really be pushing it.
Maybe someone else will pay for you.
Oh, can you guys see that?
Yeah, we can see the QR code.
Yeah.
So it
If
didn't.
anyone watching wants to donate $1,
Ask me, just so he knows, I have to fill in the 0.01. It didn't. It's not like an automatic request.
No, I think we pushed the minimum viable thing here. Let me see if it works for me.
Wait, did that work? Oh, it says it was successfully sent. Let's see.
Okay, let's see what it does. Oh yeah, it worked. I got some at least.
Now, did I? Hang on a minute. It hasn't
I
said
hope it
anything
works
yet.
for yours as well.
Will it automatically go away, or should I click the X?
Now I'm
I'd probably
thinking,
wait.
why did it work for me and not for you? Man, I wish I was sharing my screen because it just like I tried it out. Can you refresh the page?
That's what I'm doing here. Hold on.
Oh man, let me see.
Hold it. Wait for it. So it worked for you. What?
It worked for me. I feel very bad now that it didn't work for you. I'm thinking maybe we did like two at literally the
Are
same
you using
time.
it?
Hold on.
Are you using
I'll
MWeb,
tell you what.
Grant?
Yeah, it did actually send it out of my MWeb wallet.
Oh,
So-
okay.
So it's
It
going to
might be
require an
that-
extra. It's going to require an extra confirmation.
Just
Ah.
one confirmation. Yeah.
Okay, so that it would be like 2.5 minutes, right? If it's one
Yeah.
confirmation.
Light space. I don't know if you can still see this. No, okay.
I'm worried
Wait,
now
we
that
can-
you closed that window. It's
No. So essentially, as soon as we see it come in, we send Nano into the account right away.
Okay.
So it will come in there. Can I share my screen with this?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay,
I'm waiting.
how do I
There's
do
a
that?
Litecoin block having to come up here. Hang on. I'll stop sharing.
Then how do I present?
It should be at the bottom. Yeah, present.
Okay, so this is going to be risky. You guys will see
Well, that's
my.
interesting. By default, Cake Wallet sent out of my MWeb address.
That's pretty nice. Share a screen.
I think it was by default. I might have set that. I
What
might
do I
have
wanna
set
share?
that up earlier, or maybe it just repeats the last one.
So I have
Speaking of-
3.
Yeah, while you're doing that, let's do.
Yeah, wrong one.
You want to do Litecoin
Sorry.
news? We were going to do a
Litecoin
whole
news?
Litecoin news. We actually just broke 90,000 coins in MWeb. Do you know that?
I wasn't paying attention, but yes, that's impressive. Well, 100,000 by November then.
Here's.
Hopefully.
Do you go by Milan or Milan? Right? Are you named after the Italian city?
I am actually named after Milan Kundera, who wrote The Unbearable Lightness of Being.
That's
don't know
my
if you've ever read
favorite.
it.
One of my favorite books. Yeah.
Are you serious?
Yeah. Love that
Okay.
book, man. It's
So-
it's sadly more and more prevalent these days, I feel too.
The unbearable light. What is it?
The unbearable
The
lightness of
Unbearable
being.
Lightness of Being. So my parents read this book, hated the book, but liked his name, liked the guy's name, and then figured, okay, we can go with it. Wait, I need to refresh or something. I think.
Lightness, Litecoin.
I think. Did you deposit like 0.6 Litecoin? No, that's my co-founder who just deposited.
No, that's all right.
Animal, can you bring it up and I'll just send without using like MWeb?
I can do.
What do you want?
Do it. It's fine.
Because I don't know if you already just deposited, if it like will mess it up if you do it again.
There's a odd irony here. We're on an 8-minute Litecoin block, so I'm waiting on the next block.
Oh really? Oh shit.
So it should be like any second now.
Any second now. I
That's
should be able to see it come in as well because we get a notification every time someone does these swaps.
I can't believe. See, Cake messed me up.
I feel very bad now because for me it worked. Like at least for me it worked instantly.
Well, like I said, it's
So
just because it's on an MWeb block. So it's
Yeah,
not
I think
even,
so.
It's not in the M or the mem.
So
pool
how
yet.
come? Why does it take one block for MWeb? Like why is that not the same?
So you're in the extension block, and so when you try to send to a native Litecoin address, it has to peg out of the extension block.
Ah,
So,
okay.
so it
That's one
requires
transaction.
basically,
Yeah.
one block has to happen so it can come out into the main net, and then it'll go into the mem pool.
Okay.
So it should
that
happen.
makes sense.
Really, now, of course, this always happens to me when I want something to happen fairly fast. We're on a 9-minute block when it's supposed to be 2.5, which it happens.
what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna just make a new anonymous account, see if I can share my screen on that one. And then I'll show going from nothing in the account to having Litecoin.
You know,
How do
I'm
I
gonna
do
I'm gonna
this?
do something here. Hang on. I'm gonna share first because I don't know that people even know about. Wait, let me see if I'm allowed to do this. Let's just let it be me. Just don't worry, Milan.
Oh, okay.
You know, it's
So
where there's
I'm
a
not.
town. Here, I was gonna show someone. Okay, let me do the window here.
I'm gonna try mine too. Just
Can you
If
see
anybody
my?
doesn't use litecoinspace.org, this is similar to mempool.space. This will show you transactions per block on Litecoin, how many incoming transactions there are. This line will tell you when blocks are getting fuller or like that the blockchain can't handle. If you're above this line consistently, it means you're going to start having a backlog of transactions. But it's kind of interesting. Tells you who mines. If you've never used this before, the amount of money per transaction, what the fee people are paying is. And you can even, as you can see, we're on a 10-minute block, which is rare. I mean, look at these other ones. They all go, 3 minutes, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 1 minute, 1 minute. So it happens. But you can look at blocks themselves too, if you're ever curious. The transactions that go in and the people that pay. If you've never used mempool.space or this, it's really a great education. Oh, see, we just had a block. So let's now.
Then it's probably come in.
Yeah, share this.
gonna
See, here
guess.
it is. It came in through. So there you go.
Cool. Okay, nice. Can I share my screen? I think I'm trying to, but
Yeah.
I'm not sure it's working.
Yep, I got you. I'm
I'm not sure it's
gonna
showing up for people.
add you. Hold on. Let me remove me.
Okay, so now I can sort of demonstrate how quickly it's supposed to go. Let me see. LTC 0015. I don't actually know how to use this in Cake Wallet. Why is this? Send. There you go. Had to switch to my wallet. Okay, so I scan QR. Then I send 0.015 LTC.
2 zeros. 2 zeros.
2 zeros. What does Cake Wallet is giving me an error? Not enough inputs available. Please select more under coin control. Do you know what it means?
Oh, yeah.
Yes. Now we're getting into this. Is what I wanted. We were going to have Cake Wallet on at some point in time. So you have to go when you're in your send screen. I hate this about Cake. They got to change this. You have to scroll up slightly in that window, and what that'll bring up is coin controls.
And in my send screen, I scroll up.
Make sure
it depends what version you're running. Also, if you're on iOS or not, I feel, because my coin control is in the middle of the send page.
Oh yeah, coin control optional, unspent coins.
Right.
So just highlight. Choose. Yeah, make sure they're all highlighted.
There's just one to choose from, and it's highlighted.
How much do you not have enough money in there?
It's 0.09 LTC, so it should be enough.
Could be a fee. No, it wouldn't be. The fee wouldn't be that high. So I don't know.
No.
Mine's working. You just want to drive the ship, is that what you're saying? Just to kind of
wait. Actually, you can scan mine, I think, and then not send from.
Oh, you want me to pay for you? Is that what you're saying?
Yes. I want you to pay me 10 cents, please.
All right, so I'm gonna go because I got to go into coin control.
I had no clue about this whole coin control.
Well.
Oh, now it lets me send, I think. Okay, I'm just gonna try real quick.
It's pretty nice because
send. And okay, it says successfully sent.
All right.
Let's see if it works now. Yeah, there you go.
Oh, that was
quick.
Yeah, so then
that's
right after.
That's zero confirmation transactions, by the way.
Yeah.
I want that.
What is merge mining in a Litecoin? And then we should get a nice explanation. So ChatGPT only knows about Dogecoin, apparently.
Yeah, I mean, there's more. You can do, Digibyte and like, what was it that Mini Minds mentioned? Catcoin. Like, there's other ones that pop up, and then if it's kind of what's interesting to me is that more.
But they're solo mining those things, right? Like I think the big difference is that the big Litecoin and Dogecoin pools, Binance pool or via BTC, for example, like these guys, they don't merge mine Catcoin. They'll have Bellscoin and Dogecoin, but yeah, I guess because he's got so many miners, he's able to solo mine and be profitable on some chains.
This seems about correct. This description, I think.
Oh, concerns, centralization risk.
I did not input this myself, I promise.
No, this is actually a little bit of like what there's a guy Y Litecoin. I think that's his exact argument, is that he feels like eventually all the money mined like on Dogecoin they're just going to continue to sell off Dogecoin to buy more Litecoin.
Yeah, okay.
It proves to be the more like used, secure, scarce asset. It's like a mini example of what Bitcoin maximalists believe. The reality is the market drives value, not the miners. They're just running a computer, securing the transactions, right? So if they obviously provide value, but not if nobody's using it.
Sorry, I was just adding a bit to the balance. So if I wanted to do more, I could just do it right away. But nice. I'm happy it works now, so people can actually use.
Do you mind? Because one of the things I think is, I might try to zoom. I don't know if I can zoom in or not. No, I can't. Okay. What are some of the? Can you zoom your screen in a little bit, just because the text is kind of small?
Like this?
Yeah, there we go. So one thing I liked is that I saw in yours is you have pricing, but you also lay out all the different models, right? You got a really broad range of models.
You're right. Yeah. So the pricing you can see for every prompt. So this was like just over 2 nano, which is just under 2 cents, I think. And then so the models, we have like the most well-known models here. These are the ones that most people want to use. Some of them are like super cheap. Others are a bit more expensive. Like Grok, for example, is one of the more expensive ones. GPT-4o Mini is super cheap. And then we have a ton more in here, like more models. And then we have even more for role-playing and storytelling, which is something many people are very much into, we found out. So yeah, we have like a pretty big selection of models, I think. You can just pick and choose whichever ones you want. And you can even like decide for yourself which ones of these show up in the main screen if you go into settings. So yeah, I think it's pretty nice.
Can I make a recommendation?
Yes,
please. As somebody who doesn't know enough about AI, it would be really cool to be able to go in and really understand what each model is.
Okay.
And
yeah,
like let's say I had a particular task. Ooh, you need an AI to tell you this. Like I'm trying to do this, which model would be best?
Yeah.
Because that's the hardest thing is there's so many and you're like, they got these random ass names. I'm never going to keep this on the top of my head. Right. So it'd be nice to have some guidance.
Yeah. This is something we would like to add in the long run, like automatic model selection. So if you do a math question, we use the best model for math. The tough part about this is that sometimes it comes down to what people prefer personally. Like some people prefer the style of Claude 3.5 Sonnet, others prefer ChatGPT 4o. We have quite some people who prefer Grok just because it speaks very differently from the other models.
Right.
So that makes it a bit difficult. And then you have like differences where Hermes 3 large, which we have, is like unfiltered. We have other ones that are. It's just, I can see how it's complicated for users because it's complicated for us as well.
Yeah.
So with image models, for example, it's a lot easier. Wait, let me just, if you go to image models, we just have Flux Pro, which is the best scoring model. If you go to like benchmarks and stuff, it does best on pretty much everything. But if you want like a cheaper option, Flux Schnell is also a great option. And then, for example, if you have Flux Realism, it's pretty clear, like, you can just describe this is for photorealistic image generation, right? Or like stable diffusion is a model that like is very quick, and ideogram is great with text, for example. So those we can describe better. It's just difficult with the text model sometimes to describe what they do. We have a recommended model, which is just ChatGPT. If you want try something else. Claude 3.5 Sonnet always works well for many things. And then like people usually just try a bit with each of them because it costs like a cent every time, and then they see which one they like best. But yeah,
I thought that OpenAI 01 Mini was pretty dang good for it because it was so inexpensive, right? I mean, it was a tenth of a penny or something. It's really
this one, GPT-4o Mini. Yeah, it's insane. It's super cheap, super quick. Like if we did the same merge mining, can you explain what merge mining is in Litecoin? I don't know how much it's going to cost, but it's going to be very little.
I used this recently for at work. I was trying to develop a methodology for testing something, and we had this piece of equipment, and we didn't know much about it, and it was like it was able to dig up standards. Like, can you explain what the testing standards are and how you would use this machine? And like it was really great because it would say something. It makes assumptions. Like I like that about it. It can make assumptions. You do have to have some skill you do have to know what you're talking about to a degree. But if you have some knowledge in an area and you can check it and say, well, that doesn't make any sense, or I don't have that particular ability. What should I do instead? It'll then spit out some ideas. But yeah, you definitely can't take, AI is going to just know everything because it can't get in your own mind. But as for sort of a guided hand, you can be that guide. Yeah, it's really cool what you're capable of doing. And I think the more information we're able to pump into it, the limitations today, I think, are just that it doesn't dig into like reading PDF files. I mean, it can't click a link and go scan a PDF. I don't think it can. Maybe
you can input a link if you use. So we have Perplexity Online, for example. This one. It has web access. So if you input a link, it will visit the link and tell you. Like you can just have it summarize a link. If you say, read this article, it will just know. It will visit the link and then read it all out and give you an answer.
Can you do that with YouTube videos?
Ooh, not yet. We are working on it because it should be sort of just get the audio and like use it. But it's a bit harder. So actually, I can try with a YouTube video and just see what it says.
I'll tell you what, because I did it this morning with Gemini. I listened to the podcast that you did yesterday, and just to get just to get a little idea of who you are and where you're coming from and whatnot. And Gemini did it pretty well. It was quick. Yeah.
Oh, cool.
It took the YouTube link, right? So I know you guys are offering Gemini as a model, and I'm wondering maybe it'll work on your platform too.
Oh, okay. So
there's one way to try it, I guess.
I tried it just here, but that seems like it's just reading the title. I don't know if it's actually taking the text from there as well.
Indigo, who you may not, I don't know if you know him, Milan, Indigo Nakamoto, he showed me how to take a YouTube video. It'll transcribe it. You can say, transcribe this video in YouTube. Copied that into a ChatGPT and said, can you summarize this? Give me like a 10,000 word summary or whatever. And it might even have checkpoints of like times in the video. And I use Gemini, and this might be a question for you. Do you have one that can take an audio clip and transcribe it?
Not yet, sadly. We want to add same with PDFs and docs files or like just documents. We plan to add it. It's like the next thing on the list, so that you can just feed it in and it will take it. But no, right now it's just you have to use another service to convert like audio to text, and then you can put it in. So actually, there's a weekly developer meeting for the Nano developers, and it's on Twitter. And there's like an audio clip of it, and then someone reads it out every week, feeds it into NanoGPT, and asks it to like summarize it by subject.
Meeting notes, nice,
and that gets posted to the subreddit every week so that people can be up to date on like what's going on in terms of development. So we would love to automate that full system where you just go like, here's the audio file, tell me, like summarize it for me. So
that's exactly what I did in Gemini. I said, summarize this video, please, and then give the YouTube link, and it came up with this nice little blurb.
Oh, so that's probably because it's in its own native ecosystem.
Yeah,
it's all.
I mean, they definitely they're skipping a hop there themselves, right?
Because I
Do you
did
not
that
know
with
the
I
data
took an
switcher?
old
Interesting.
podcast. I took an old podcast I did, and I did that. I had Gemini here. Listen to this. I had to whatever transcribe it, and then took that transcription and said, "Can you give me a summary?" And that was really cool because it made it like I can start writing articles, even though I'm not writing articles. I'm just letting it do the work. But it's of my, at least it's of my own creation in a way. Oh, here you go. What's this?
Interesting. That was with
Yes,
Gemini. Okay, so it did do it.
That was Gemini 1.5 Pro. Okay.
Do you have
Cool.
Gemini
I didn't know it could do that.
That's
Guess you
cool.
learned
'Cause
something.
Gemini, I don't want to sign up for Gemini. Like I have for work, I'm like, I don't want to sign up for freaking another service. Like I'm so tired of. That's
Yeah.
probably the best
Yeah.
thing crypto can provide. I don't want to sign up for crap anymore, especially for
I
like a
know.
one-off. You know.
Especially when you're liable for thought crime these days. It's like
Animal,
I don't want Google to know what I like. You know what I mean? Or Microsoft even worse, right?
lives in Canada. Animal lives in Canada. The thought. All right.
I'm
Well,
going to
it's
try
thought
one
crime's
more
a
thing.
bit- Yeah.
Like I
Maybe
want to
an
see if it can
exaggeration.
generate like a Litecoin logo. I don't actually know if it can do this. Litecoin logo on a guitar. Who has the guitar in the background? It's like, why am I thinking of a guitar?
That's all right.
Uh,
I know, I need a better. This logo actually, I just need to replicate it and get it. Somebody to design it. Which, by the way, if anybody out there is like into wants to build a marketing portfolio and wants to learn how to be a social media guru and wants to be, we could maybe give you a couple bucks, but build a online portfolio and wants to be a Litecoin Underground partner, please reach out. Hey, that worked out. That's the right L.
That's pretty cool.
Not bad.
Oh,
Hey,
yeah,
I was
there's
wondering if you guys want to switch gears a bit, there's something I was curious about discussing with you or want to discuss with you, and that was, well, you're now doing some kind of, you're somewhat involved with Blueprint, the whole Brian
Yeah.
Johnson thing. We
Yeah,
talk
yeah,
about health quite often on this show because I like healthcare is pretty important. And as a Litecoiner, I mean, our horizon or time horizon for profit looks like it might be more than like we want. Right? So, longevity is
bro, why are you gonna do that?
Longevity is getting important.
yeah. As another year goes by, you're like, well, maybe in 5 years from now we'll see the profits that we're expecting last year. But yeah, so staying healthy and whatnot is on top of mind for me, I guess, as it should be for everyone. But
I'm trying this other view. I don't know why it's focused on me. Hang on. I'm supposed to bring the guy talking to the guitar. I just want to try this out. So
yeah. I thought you wanted to show if you have two guitars because I only saw the one. But yeah, no, I can explain a bit about it. So I'm at the Network School, which is an initiative by Balaji Srinivasan and Brian Johnson. So Balaji is a tech investor. He was Coinbase CTO and he set up Coinbase Earn, all that kind of stuff. And he's invested in like 1,000 different companies. He was a very early adopter of crypto. So essentially, as he put it in like the announcement tweet, it was like, Satoshi gifted me this money. Let's build something cool, pretty much. And so the thinking is this Network School is a place where people interested in tech, in AI, in crypto, in all these future technologies, biotechnology as well, can come together in one place where you're surrounded by people interested in like similar future-oriented stuff, where you're away from sort of the traditional constraints of it being hard to build stuff in the US, because here they're a bit more lenient, and we have like a sort of blank slate to start from. So he wanted to bring all those people together. And then the other component of this program is by Brian Johnson, who I think most people know for the Don't Die movement and for Blueprint and for taking blood transfusions and measuring his nighttime erections. But essentially, his focus in life is on not dying, which sounds very simple, but it's like, how do we optimize our bodies to be in perfect health for as long as possible, mentally and physically? And he's built this whole regimen around it, which he is spending millions of dollars a year on it. And essentially, he's trying to now commoditize Blueprint and his way of living to something anyone can do, because what he does is pretty extreme and it takes a lot of money. So he wants to make it simple for everyone to get good nutrition, good sleep, good exercise, and just sort of bring the protocols out there that you need to do that. And honestly, so here it's really cool. Every morning we have a workout. I do 7 a.m. So today I'm staying up late. I'm messing up my sleep score because it's like 11:45 here now for context.
Oh man. Okay.
But so 7 a.m. you do a workout, then we have breakfast, like communal breakfast sort of with the people you worked out with. But everyone at the breakfast is also into tech stuff, into crypto stuff. So you'll randomly have a conversation about like new forms of governance for crypto, or someone who's like very deep into AI who can explain to you how to set up your own LLM. And then someone else is, yeah, everyone has like their specialty that they're very passionate about, and everyone here is like, yeah, just very smart people. And then most people just go to do work for the day, but then all the food that's around you is Blueprint. So everything here is like super healthy. You have the nutty pudding in the morning. You have
Cool.
yeah, it's super cool. The first days, like Brian was obviously here himself, so he brought the snake oil, and you could do like snake oil shots and that kind of stuff.
It's
Because the
literal
olive
snake
oil,
oil.
he called it snake oil as a sort of joke, yeah, because
I'm
he
like,
started
what?
selling he started selling olive oil, and people were like, "Oh man, you're becoming a real snake oil salesman now." He's like, "Ah, that's a good name. Let's call it snake oil."
That's funny.
It tastes great, by the way, the snake oil. But yeah, so anyway, so then essentially this place is just a place where about 150 people right now came together in one place, led by Balaji, who invites interesting speakers. So the first week, Vitalik was here, who
Wow.
also joined sort of the full program, gave some talks. I don't know how many other speakers I should be saying because I don't know to what extent it's
How long have you been there?
a bit over a month now.
How do you
It
feel?
started really good. Like, but to be fair, back home I also eat quite healthy and I work out a lot. So that's kind of why I got interested in this as well, because crypto, AI, tech stuff is literally my life now, combined with living healthily. So for me, it's the perfect combination. My girlfriend also came. So yeah, it's super nice to be here, to be honest. And it's just super interesting. It's like being surrounded by interesting people all day. So I kind of do the same as I would back home. I'm just working on NRGPT a lot, except all my conversations all day are very interesting. Every time you randomly run into someone, they're like, "So I'm hosting this session on brain-computer interfaces and just explaining what the current state of the art is, and I brought this device to try out." And it's like,
No
cool, yeah,
kidding.
that's not something I usually run into.
Damn, you're living like a dream. That's really cool, man. That's
It's
awesome.
honestly really cool. And so they are still taking applications for it as well. So if someone is interested, like reach out to me, I can tell you a bit more. But I think there's a big backlog right now of like 10,000 people on the waiting list. I don't know the number,
No
but it
kidding.
feels like it's a lot.
I mean,
Uh,
the price seems pretty fair too. Like it doesn't seem super
no,
expensive.
Is
it's actually really fair. It's so for the school and the lectures and everything combined, and the housing
Wait.
and the
Before you do that, I'm going to tell you a price that I think is fair.
okay, yeah.
I think like 20 grand.
Per month?
For what period or?
Oh, I thought it was like whatever. Yeah, let's say per month. I thought it was like you come in for 90 days or something. Let's say 7 grand a month.
Okay, okay.
They put you up in a house and feed you and everything.
What?
They
So
put you
okay,
up
so
10
Room and
grand.
board?
you pay $7,000 a month. I think. Okay, I'm happy they didn't know this beforehand. That would be guessing because uh, for like the housing and the courses and everything combined is $1,000 a month, and then you also pay for your food, which is another like $500 a month, pretty much. So like
That's
all
cheaper
in,
than my life.
dude,
Cheaper
it
than my
is
life.
honestly cheap. And like I'm not able to turn around my laptop because I spent a lot of time trying to figure out a way to set this up so I could have myself be
Yeah,
in
don't worry
screen.
about it.
But like it's honestly a really good place to be as well. It's remarkably fancy. I'm sitting in a karaoke room, which is being converted to a call room because people here are more interested in doing podcasts than karaoke.
Mhm.
But yeah, it's honestly a really nice place to be. It's not super expensive, like obviously not super cheap, but I think it's quite fair. And yeah, it's just healthy living with interesting people. So yeah, it's a really good
Is it
time.
like is it anti I'm assuming anti-pharmaceuticals or like the idea is to everything's got to be more about what you're consuming, putting into your body, and eliminating that type
Preventative.
of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, it's more preventative. So the thinking is you optimize your nutrition, which honestly is not that complicated. It's just hard to always do. Like we all know what the healthy food is pretty much.
Yeah.
It's just I never take the time to actually cook it. And here that's just all sort of done for you. So that's very nice. People here actually care about their sleep. So it's like a tech bro vibe, but then everyone goes to bed at like 10:30,
That's
which
a
is
hard
really
one.
funny.
Yeah.
There's like, well, you could probably get alcohol, but there's like almost no alcohol. I don't think anyone really smokes. So it's like very just healthy living, and everyone is kind of interested in the same stuff. Everyone's interested in sort of being the best version of themselves that they can be. Everyone is super open to sharing about their expertise. So I can do a session about like, I don't know, AI models and explaining nano. But yeah, brain computer interfaces are like beyond me, but then someone else can really explain how that works. So it's super interesting.
Wow.
Yeah, that's really
Yeah, that sounds
awesome.
awesome, man. There's
Yeah.
there's something else that we saw recently. I guess who was it? Robert Breedlove, right? This guy, he had this. Oh my god! Remember we were talking about he had a ranch or something, and he
You
was
and I talked?
selling. Yeah, it was Okie Dokie Farms or something. Oh man,
I don't
What a
know.
beautiful name.
hold on.
It wasn't you and I don't think we talked about it.
Okie dokie farms.
Well, I know they have some, like, there's a couple farms that are beef, the cattle farms that are accepting crypto, right?
Oh, true. I've seen that. Yeah, I've seen people pay with Monero for like to get a discount on their beef.
Yeah, well, it's just, we talked last week. We talked a lot about the medical industry, and what it sounds like and is interesting is that people are just going to sidestep it because it's become so horribly, I don't want to call it corrupted. Just it's entrenched in its own system, right? It's
Yeah.
what we would used to say. It's fallen in love with the smell of its own farts, right? It believes it is the only way. It's the only way to go forward. And when it's like so blatantly obvious that we're doing more damage in a lot of ways to our bodies, and the best thing to do is to allow your body to heal itself.
Mhm.
I had a issue with with one of my hips and legs a few years ago, and I went to a chiropractor. They practiced some particular way of doing it, and it was all about, like, your nerves are meant to detect pain and deploy the healing elements that your body can provide. But what happens is connections get kind of kinked up or whatever, which maybe it was all bullshit. But the reality is I went to it, I don't know, for 3 months or something. I'd had this issue for a couple years, right? Kept getting a leg cramp, and my IT band would get all cramped up.
Mm.
It was gone. It's never come back. And I'm like, dude, that's like, to me, that's amazing. I had the same thing with my elbow. I was having issues, like a tennis elbow thing, for years. And I went to this guy for 3 to 6 months, and I've never had it. You almost don't even recognize when it's gone. And all of a sudden you're like,
Yeah.
what? I don't have that anymore. Like, how did that happen? Right. And the
Yeah.
body will heal itself. And so some of these things that are out there that allow the body to communicate internally and heal itself, it's nutrition, it's, natural medicines, like we talked about cannabinoids last week. It's all out there. And if you're invested and fully entrenched in the old system, you're not actually that interested in trying to change that. And so that's
Yeah.
what,
And so
unfortunately,
much
you have to
so much of
bypass.
what's sold is like processed foods in North America and the United States and Canada. There's just like it's littered with seed oils, canola oil, and these are extremely inflammatory, right? And they can just cause so many problems downstream. If you're eating processed food with canola oil in it every day for your whole life, you're gonna wind up with inflammatory diseases, right? Like joint issues or like whatever, organ failure or whatever, increased chances of cancer, right? Because often cancers are just a symptom of chronic inflammation. Yeah, and I mean, if you're
Glyphosate or glyphosate, right? That's what is glyphosate. Glyphosate, the Roundup. I don't know if you know that,
okay,
but
yeah,
Robert Kennedy's his whole thing is about getting rid of that because he feels like that's what's caused so many cancer producing elements in
really,
ADHD and like all these things that you talk about that kids are having issues with. He said you spray every crop with it. What do you expect, right? It's going to end up in your
yeah.
body somehow. And yeah, you wouldn't drink it. you wouldn't even take a drop, and you don't even want to get it on your hands, much less ingest it.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
so, but I do. I,
So you-
want to
you-
end this short, but go ahead, finish up. I want to end one last thing because I don't want these to go over 2 hours. I feel like that starts to get.
For sure, yeah. I'm just curious if you're doing like, because I know Brian's always like in a caloric deficit, right, with his blueprint diet, his menu.
Yeah.
It's the same thing so you're eating the same thing that he eats every day. Basically?
No, so it's the breakfast. Like we know the amount of calories in nutty pudding, and there's like scales everywhere so you can weigh your stuff. But the dinner, for example, you can take as much as you like. So like you could do a caloric deficit, but it would be a bit difficult to personalize that to people to the extent that they would want to, just because, well, like everyone has a different way, different activity levels across the day. Because, for example, we do the morning workouts, right? And that you can probably measure how much everyone expends. But then I'm training for like a marathon, so I do a bit more afterwards. So it's
Okay.
hard for them to adjust to that. So you can eat as much as you like, which for some people will be they do a caloric deficit, some don't. But yeah, it's not as extreme as Brian Johnson does it. To be fair, we do have like air filters everywhere here, and like the water is filtered in some very special way.
Alkaline, probably.
I am not actually sure what it is, and then like it's minimizing plastic so that you don't get like the microplastics in there and everything. So honestly, it feels half like a sort of health retreat or wellness or whatever, which is just very nice, and it's great because you don't need to think about it so much as you normally would.
Well, I know people that have gone to like I guess detox clinics, right? Where there's basically like a country club, but they're really, you know, I want to say vegan or raw vegan and like really strict with their diet, and people go there because they have heart issues or whatever, and it's much more expensive. It's like 10
Yeah,
times the price.
yeah,
practically.
yeah.
So yeah, this seems really compelling. I know a couple people that'd be interested in learning more about it for sure.
Yeah, so the idea is to build this out to an actual first a village, then a city. But the idea is to really expand this. There's a lot of space around here to expand it to, and that is Balaji's long-term vision for this. It's not just a pop-up city; it's going to be a long-term thing. But yeah, he probably does a way better job describing it himself. So like ns.com is where you can find all the info. NS as in networkschool.com.
Yeah,
Could would he be willing to come on here,
Balaji.
or is he too
Ooh.
big time?
I feel like I don't know if he's too big time, but insanely busy. I can ask him, but I feel like he's like the guy. I feel like he's not doing Blueprint because he barely sleeps.
Fair enough.
So I don't know. I could ask him. We can see if he wants to.
Yeah, I mean, this is an area I'm just really, really interested in. I just find it fascinating that, like, again, it's like once you kind of wake up to like what's going on, you realize like, man, there's probably so much we're missing out on, and the people who are progressive thinkers in it and are finally able to communicate and put their, pre-internet, people couldn't really, create communities like this, and that we can do that now. That's you create specialized communities. You can live anywhere now. You're not tied to the building you work in. So it seems like this type of thing is definitely gonna. I mean, you got me thinking. Why is there not something like that in my own hometown where I can get meal delivery or just pay someone to prepare all our meals? That doesn't seem that crazy. It shouldn't be that expensive. I'm already paying God knows how much to pay for my food every month. Just to buy the groceries. It just seems like that's where we're going. So we're going to get under 2 hours, because if I go over 2 hours, I have to make 2 YouTube videos and 2 podcasts out of it. And it's a big pain in my ass, basically. So I really appreciate you coming on. If anything develops or comes up, you want to come back, that'd be cool. Check out Milan, used to be Mira
Formerly
Hurley.
Mira Hurley.
Somewhere on Twitter, go to NanoJet GPT, and I'll post, when I post this video, I'll put your handle in there. So
Cool.
man, really appreciate it. It was a good conversation, and you guys have a good weekend. I always tell people I'm gonna turn this off, but it doesn't mean you have to go away. All right, I just like to close it out because you have to save it or something like that.
Oh, cool.
But,
yeah, thank you very much for having me. It was actually good fun. It felt more like a very
you
nice
sound
chat.
surprised, man. Come on.
I thought I was gonna have to defend Nano, and no, I'm just kidding.
Oh no,
no,
man, I'm not
it
like
was
that.
Very nice talking to you guys. I
There's room
enjoyed
for
this.
everybody. All right,
Likewise.
everybody, have a good one. And my new sign off: go out and get some sunshine. All right, everybody.
All right.